This is Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world, presented to you in collaboration with Africa. My name is Huda Smitshuijzen AbiFarès, and I have with me today Nora Aly. Nora is an independent Egyptian designer based in Cairo. She works as adjunct professor at the American University in Cairo, AUC. In her work, she focuses on Arabic typography, using it as a core element in all her creative endeavors, such as visual communication, branding, type design, and graphic design. Her interest in typography is also evident in how she engages with language, not only as a tool to manifest thoughts, but also as a means to shape our collective identity. She holds a master's degree in graphic design from the German University in Cairo, GUC. And I am very honored and very happy to have you on the show with us today. So good morning, and hopefully you're having a nice start of your year.
Yes, I'm happy that I'm starting the year with this conversation, and the honor is all mine.
Thank you and welcome. I'm going to start the conversation by just letting you tell us a little bit about, how did you become a designer? Was there something that triggered you, inspired you? How did it go?
Okay, so honestly, it was not a conscious decision. I guess I kind of went with the flow. I was generally very interested in anything related to art and crafts since a young age. I remember that I used to enjoy calligraphy classes so much. I don't know if you had the same at school, but in order to get a higher participation grade, we had to pick like a poem or like a lesson from the Arabic school book and rewrite it on a nice A2, A1 sheet of paper. And of course, it had to be nicely done, maybe supported with some visuals to hang it in class. So my mom used to help me with this. And I have this vivid memory of myself observing her writing. She had like a beautiful handwriting. So I used to observe her so closely to imitate her writing. And I had to observe a lot and practice a lot. I used to enjoy the calligraphy classes, as I said, until I was known by my good handwriting in school. And one day I was asked by a friend of mine to like design a lettering piece for her so she can ink it on her ankle. It was her mom's name. Yeah, so I had this deep interest without knowing that it can turn into anything. And when I graduated from school, I heard that there is a new faculty in the German university, the Applied Arts and Sciences. So I decided, okay, this fits my interest, not knowing what is graphic design or what I'm going to do after joining this faculty, but I just I follow my intuition. Like it felt back then that this is the good decision. And yeah, since then, everything has been falling into place, alhamdulillah.
That's great. I mean, I can relate it very much to your story. I think we kind of have, not the calligraphy, my handwriting is terrible. But I'm jealous. I mean, I went to a French school, so they didn't give us calligraphy lessons or anything in Arabic for that matter. So that's a disadvantage in some ways. But I can relate to this idea of going into, like, you're interested in art, you think maybe, design, you don't know what design is, and then you're there and you discover, this is really what you made a good intuitive decision. That's really good. I mean, did you study with a specific calligrapher, or was just like the school class?
Just the school class calligraphy classes. I was in a French school as well, but we had like Arabic calligraphy classes and French calligraphy classes. I was interested in both, but mostly Arabic. Yeah, and this, I think, as I said, it came from seeing my mom writing, and she had like this beautiful handwriting. So yes, it was not something like specific, but later on, I was more interested to develop my calligraphy skill. It's not fully developed yet, but I think it's good enough. So
And
later
how was
on,
it? How was it at the, sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no,
How
no.
was it at the German university? Did you have help with, working on Arabic typography? Did you like switch from calligraphy to typography? Did you have an inspiring teachers?
Yes, yes. So in the beginning, it was because I was in the German university. I joined in 2006, so it was early, and all the professors back then were German. So it was mostly Latin,
Yeah.
but that was interesting too for me. Like it helped me to understand how to deal with lettering or with letters in a different way. So it was helpful, but like later in the years, I think like towards the fourth year, we had like this German Turkish professor. She really influenced my approach a lot because she taught us how to drop the Latin part aside and try to own our culture, our language, our script, even though she didn't speak Arabic, but she was reflecting a lot about her experience. So I think she's one of the professors who really like influenced my approach or my way of thinking towards design and towards language and scripts specifically.
Mhm. And along the way, I mean, you've been working for a while, and then you went back and you did an MA, also at the German university. So, yeah, what made you go back and do a master's, other maybe than being interested in teaching later? I don't know.
And this was a struggle with my parents, honestly, because once I graduated, they were pushing me to do a master's, and
Okay.
yeah, and I was thinking by that time, no, I'm not interested in teaching. I would like to explore the working scene. Like I worked as a full-timer graphic designer and worked in this independent agency called Cairo with a K. It's an advertising and branding agency, and I stayed there for 5 years.
Okay.
But I started to feel that I miss the cultural project and I miss working on a long-term project. So I decided to do my master's only to have the self-discipline and the commitment towards an entity to be able to develop something. So yeah, the decision also came intuitively. Like I just want to do something, and not knowing how I'm going to use this degree later on. Like just I'm always think one step at a time, and then we'll see the next step how it will go.
And how was your MA program? How was the MA program? Was it like an independent research project that you worked on, or did you have to follow still courses, or how does it work in GUC?
So it's a bit different than anything I heard of.
Always
Because
good.
yeah, because it was supposed to be 4 years. Yeah, but there was this law that because we are part, like we are supposed to be treated as, I think, engineers or something like that. So it has to be 5 years. So the university made the adjustment and made it 5 years and a half, 5 years and a semester. Um, and we took the courses for the masters, and they called it like the pre-masters. So when if anyone want to do a master's, they only do the project part, the practical part. So they choose a topic and they do like an independent project without needing to do the courses because they already did during their undergrad years.
Okay.
So this was the program mainly. So what I did is only the project and the thesis, yeah, obviously.
And how was that experience, the research project?
So it was honestly a life-changing experience. As I said, like I wanted to do the masters because I had this real urge of working on something that I'm passionate about and something that is cultural, not commercial at all. So it was one of the closest projects to my heart. I can talk about the project a little bit.
Yeah, please.
It's a project that I can talk about for a whole hour, but I'll try to summarize it as much as I can. Okay, so the topic or the project is the Nubian language from spoken to written. I would like to give a little bit of an introduction about Nubians. So Nubians are a special ethnic group who live in southern Egypt, in Aswan. They also live in northern Sudan, but in my project I was focusing on Egyptian Nubians. So they have their own traditions, culture, architecture, style, and obviously their own language, something that I was not aware of before visiting this area for the first time around 12 years ago. So I have this ritual whenever I visit a place with a language that I'm not familiar with. I ask a local to write me something in their language.
Mhm.
So 12 years ago, I met this amazing Nubian boatman who was speaking on the phone in a language that I didn't know it existed. So I asked him to write me something in his own language. He told me that the language could not be written because it's only spoken. So I was really intrigued because I didn't know back then that a language could ever exist without a script. So it was very surprising, and I was very interested to know more. We kept talking until I came to understand that the language is threatened to die. So 4 years later, I decided to quit my full-time job, not knowing what to do, but I had this idea of doing a master's. And because this topic was always in my mind, I chose it as my master's topic. And from here, the journey started. So I started to read a lot and try to find a lot of resources about this topic. Not specifically the language, but to learn about Nubians in general. And because there was a great lack in resources about Nubians and the language specifically, not to mention from a design perspective as well, I didn't find anything about, from a design perspective about the language. I decided to go there and do like a field research. I stayed for 2 months. This was the longest trip, or this was my main field research. During these 2 months, I started to hold interviews, focus groups, just chill with my neighbors in the island, in the Nubian island, and try with the intention to learn about these people, their struggles, lifestyle, and to understand more about the language, how it's practiced, and so on. Long story short, there are a lot of reasons that are affecting the state of the language, one of which is the Nubian women are indirectly forced to favor the Arabic over their own mother tongue at home. So because the language is only spoken, it's passed down to younger generations. So this was very critical to happen, and so I was interested in the specific problem. And from here, of course, I did a lot of interviews with mothers and families, and I came to understand that it's actually what they said. The language has no a clear function. They choose to teach Arabic since a very young age for their children because they want to guarantee a better future for their children.
Because it's not really used in, it's a small community and there's not much use for the language within that community.
Exactly. So they only use it within their community, but they know for a fact that they need to be integrated in a Arabic dominant society. So and they get bullied a lot because of their accent. So as mothers, they want to for their children a better life and a better future. So they think this is a better decision.
Yeah.
But they do it with they don't the fact that they had to drop their own language. They always blame the government for it because they do not recognize the language or support them as a minority, but they feel this is a decision that has to be made. So from here, I was trying to think how the language could have a function or a use that could be emotionally and financially also rewarding for the mothers, because as you know, they are like underprivileged communities, so they really think of how they can survive.
Yeah.
So most of the Nubian women, they work as henna artists. They are known in Egypt by their good henna art. So I thought maybe this could be like a leverage point. Maybe there's an opportunity here to like integrate the language and their henna art. So this was the main idea. And also I would like to tell the story about my field research. So after a week staying there, my fixer gave me a Nubian name, Sandalia. Sandalia is the sandalwood scent in Nubian. And he taught me how to say my name is Sandalia in Nubian. So Aigi Sandalia era means my name is Sandalia, and this was my icebreaker. So the mothers who decided not to teach their children, whenever they see me saying Aigi Sandalia era, they start to laugh and like intrigued, and who taught you this? And it's the first time to see a stranger who's really interested in their language. So I felt this emotional reward when they see this, like this dynamic between myself and them. So I thought how I can recreate this dynamic, and I thought there's an opportunity as well. As henna artists, they meet a lot of strangers, a lot of tourists and Egyptians. So if they see that these strangers are interested in the language and they want to do like a word in henna on their body, this could be a nice thing emotionally, and also not to mention the financial part as well. So I started to work on this idea. I did a whole research. This part was very hard for me because it was a very linguistic research about the language. Also, I need to mention Mukhtar Khalil Kabbara. He's a Nubian historian who did this book. It's called اللغة النوبية كيف تكتبها, the Nubian language, how to write it. So he did this whole research for years to develop the script. So the Nubian language has its own script, but it was not written since the 15th century when the Nubians like converted to Islam. So he did this research about the script and made a few adjustments and did like a guidebook about how to write the Nubian language. And this book was used by many individuals to teach people how to write the Nubian language with the intention to revive the language. So I used his book to develop a typeface, a Nubian typeface, a display typeface inspired from Henna, to create like a stencil alphabet for the henna artist to use it and create like analog designs, because that is how their process looks like. They only sketch on paper and show the people the designs they have. I worked on a henna kit with this stencil alphabet, like a hand templates, so they can like draw on it. And this is more or less the project. The master's
It sounds really it sounds really like really that it's remarkable, I think, that you completely gave yourself to this research and you kind of really integrated. I mean, it's rare that people get an opportunity to be in a community and to be like welcome in a small community, and then to generate work that is also not only, and very, I think, I've seen the work, and I've, of course, with read your research, and I found it very very interesting to look back at, reviving scripts, but then giving them a new form and a new function in this case. So it's a really remarkable project. I don't know if this was your most meaningful project that you've worked on. Maybe you've had other
Definitely it
projects.
is.
Okay.
It's really like the closest project to my heart. And also so I was trying to get grants to realize this project and produce the henna kits and give it to the Nubian mothers and Nubian women in Aswan. But of course, you know how it's very competitive to get
Yeah.
accepted, and I was never accepted for any of the grants. So I decided to publish the thesis, to self-publish the thesis. So I did like a book
Yeah.
to raise awareness and to have this research available for everyone. And maybe one day I can like take a percentage of the sales and do the henna kits myself and give it
Yeah.
to the people.
Yeah, I think it's it's a very nice, I'm sure there are simple ways to give them at least the alphabet, and they can. It's
Yeah,
also nice about henna is that it's, they have to write it by hand. So probably every time the script is also very alive. It's not like like a typeface.
yeah,
So I
exactly.
think that's really very special. It makes me think of like other projects that I've seen of your work where, the lettering has something like it's flexible, and every time it's used differently, it's stretched differently, it's played with. You want to talk about, for example, your work that you did for the Cairo Art Book Fair? I really
Yes,
love that project.
thank you. So yeah, I really I would like to also talk about my process a bit and then
Yeah.
reflect on it. So for my process, I have a very, very, very long process. I started with a lot of reading, a lot of research, consuming a lot of textual and visual material, and of course, writing. I believe somehow that what we consume during this process reflects consciously or subconsciously in our work. And then, because I have this fear of blank pages, so I start by writing, actually. I write a lot about my thoughts, reflections about the brief, yeah, and anything that comes to my mind. And I have to mention as well that I doubt myself a lot. So that's why it's a very long process. It's like a back and forth between my ideas. I kill a lot of ideas and concepts. So Cairo Art Book Fair brief was very challenging because I had to do something that is neutral enough, but also like reflects the essence of the fair. I was trying to like my main inspiration was how the complexity of the Arabic script and how the letters get interlaced together.
Mhm.
And I was trying to reflect this somehow to have this connection between letters and the words because, like Cairo Art Book Fair, I thought it's good to have these all interlaced or like connected somehow because this is how I perceived the fair. And I worked a lot. If I showed you the Illustrator page, like many like attempts and a lot of options of how this could be made. So and each word, this is something that is not very visible or not clear unless it's explained. But each word is reflected somehow in the letter, the meaning of the word. So, for example, معرض, fair, you will find the mim ain re. It's taking a shape of like a frame. The al-Qahira, the he, is in a shape of a lotus. معرض al-Kutub is like a spread in the kaf and the be. And Faniya for the fih, it's like a twisted fih, like it's not the clear or like the way you will perceive a fih. This is how I perceive art. It's a twisted thought, like in a different perspective. So this is how I was approaching the logotype of the fair. And it's one of the projects also that I enjoyed, but it was definitely one of the most challenging.
Yeah, it's always difficult to translate so many ideas into one word, you know, it's and most of the time, like you said, you play the game, but you know, for somebody who's looking at that thing, it feels very dynamic and energetic and fresh. And that's also something you can think of in a book fair about art, young, just started, you know, so it really captures it, even though it doesn't really, like the way
Yeah.
you explain it does not necessarily
Yeah.
is the first thing you think about, although I could see some book feeling, you know, some
Yes.
pages, something floating. Yeah, that was a really beautiful project, but maybe you want to talk about other projects that you have been working on, like you know, you worked on in advertising on, you know, and I know from lots of people I know who worked in advertising, you have a lot of work, short deadlines, everything is speedy, and I can imagine like your reaction of stopping with that and doing it individually and taking your time with your process. But was there other things like even, you know, there are also, of course, challenges when you work independently. So, you know, what do you find the most challenging at the moment in your work?
So the most challenging is my brain, of course. Of course, I think this is something that we don't mention a lot, honestly, and this is something I'm very interested to talk about. So working as an independent designer is a very lonely process, you know. So I get to play all the roles during the whole process. So as I said earlier, I doubt myself a lot, and I'm so hesitant, and sometimes it can take like up to days to be able to make decisions. And as much as it gets hard sometimes, but I believe it helps me to to challenge myself and try to make the best out of what I'm working on. But yeah, I think like this is the most challenging part of my process is myself. I get so harsh on myself sometimes, and because also during our process, it's not only as simple as to visualize something and that's it. So you think a lot about stuff. You think about the smallest details and about the concept itself. And there is a lot of thinking, and so we use our brains a lot. And imagine if you have a creative block, or like you're struggling with a specific detail in a project or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's that's why it's very important for me, and I'm very keen to explain even this to my clients why I take time, because there's this process of trial and error. I'm not a person like maybe people can do, other designers can do that. They are lucky to be very prompt and fast and like coming up with concepts and like visualize them in the best way possible. But I'm a very slow person, and I have to not like the first thing I do is good. No, I have a lot of trials and disappointments from myself, so I need to take my time. So definitely this is one of the most challenging things in my process, and also self-discipline. So working alone, you need to be very like on time and self-disciplined. I struggle with this also.
Do you
Uh,
have like specific rituals that kind of force you to do things in a
some
way, or not really?
not really. Like whenever I try force things on myself, doesn't work. So it's either like sometimes like it's really changing from a project to another. So sometimes I'm very like productive and prompt in the beginning, but towards the end it's a bit slower. Sometimes it's the other way around. So I don't have a specific ritual. I'm trying to, because you know how you compare yourself with people, and sometimes you feel like I'm not productive enough, I'm not really self-disciplined enough. But I learned in the hardest way that we function differently. So I don't work, I don't function this way. So I need to make things flow. And whenever I feel the urge working on something, or like I have a certain idea that I'm very excited about, I just focus and try to work. But other than that, it doesn't work. So whenever I feel like not feeling it now, I close the laptop, I do something else. Maybe I can travel and come back. Uh, so this is how I do it most of the times. And also, I would like to mention, imagine this whole thing, the inner dialogue during this process, and then you get a rejection from a client, or you get like a very hard feedback from a client. And also, this is something that we don't talk about. I feel like which is normal, I understand it, but we tend to celebrate the achievements, the good moments, the good work that we were happy to produce, but we don't talk about, or we don't give space for the other moments, the rejections, the harsh feedback, and this part. I had this idea for 2 years, and I finally did it. So I recently published a new publication, 7 Years of Rejection.
I love the name.
So in this publication, I compiled all the rejected proposals over 7 years of independent practice. And in each, like, it's a bilingual publication. You can go through it from both, like from right to left or left to right, going from present to past or from the past to present, to have like different perspectives about the same body of work. And also each project is explained what was the brief, how many rounds or how many proposals were suggested for the client, and the reason of rejection. So I thought also like the explanation is as important as the work itself, to show, like, only to share my experience, how I dealt with it, and how was my experience, and also to show people that we get rejected. Like it's like, because I feel like we forget, myself included, like whenever I have a lot of people that I look up to, and when I hear them talking about their work, I feel like everything is perfect, and they don't, like, they have, the process is very smooth, and they have like great ideas and great concepts, and we really forget, because we don't mention this part at all. So I thought, as I said in the beginning, I am really interested to give space to these imperfect parts of our process and our creative wellness as well, because we use our brain a lot, and I think this is very important to take place in our practice. Let's say. So.
Yeah, because do you think that, also these negative or rejections, as you call them, I don't want to say negative experiences, but these rejections, these disappointing experiences, sometimes do you feel like you learn from them?
Of course.
And now you're teaching, do you kind of communicate that to your students? Because I think students always are so scared, like we're all scared of white pages. They're so scared they have an additional stress of, feeling like, what if we make a mistake? They're just coming from school where everything is sort of black and white with grades and things. And so can you communicate that with your students?
Definitely. So as you said, like I don't call them like negative rejections, not at all. Like I feel I learned a lot, and even like working on this project, reflecting on the earliest projects that I worked on and that were rejected, I now understand why they were rejected. Sometimes not all the rejections were like bad. They were like, it happened for a reason as well. Sometimes, yes, we do not agree with the client, but other times it happened for a reason, of course. And I myself, I learned a lot while working on this project. For like speaking about teaching, of course, I speak a lot about this. And as I said, I'm very interested about talking about the process and be very transparent about it, and speak about the imperfect and the hard parts as much as the good parts.
Yeah.
And yes, I speak about it with my students a lot, and I reflect on my experience as well. And I think like this is one of yeah, I think that is my approach in teaching, just to be more human. It's not like we are not machines, and to give space to ourselves to try and make mistakes and learn. Like it's not linear. I'm sure we all know that, but I think we don't speak about it as much.
No, because we're all, it kind of is ingrained in your brain not to fail. I mean, but sometimes it's like failing is also a good experience, because I had a friend who used to take all the rejected projects and kind of recycle them and like with other clients, because he liked them. He didn't
Yeah.
want to give them up at all. So he would try to sell them to someone else, which I find very strange. I would never do that. But I think, your approach is really interesting. It made me think also about, when you talk about imperfection and teaching and your interest in craft and like the handmade or the human aspect of making design. Do you still practice by hand, or do you do everything already on your computer directly? And how do you see like the future with the young generation? Do they know how to use their hands anymore?
Of course, I still practice by hand. So
Okay.
I always start my process with analog. Like as I said, I write with my hand and I sketch, and this is a very important part of my process. And that I try also to explain this to my students. I try to integrate a lot of tasks and classwork with analog, because I think it's very important, and it's like it takes you to this state where your ideas flow. So you have to be a bit patient, but certainly it does. About the future, I fear about the future a bit. I'm still, I don't have like a certain response or like an answer about the future. I myself still trying to understand that the time we're living in. But I have this interesting story that I would like to tell you about. So
Yeah.
last fall, last semester, I was teaching logo and visual identity, and we had like this project the students have to work on, to develop a visual identity for a culture festival that happens at AUC. So the first task was for them to research, reflect on the brief, and do like a very intensive and analytical research about previous editions of the festival, other identities of regional and international festivals. And because the theme was about future Cairo, so they had also to research the theme, AI, technology, and innovation as keywords. And like I gave them like specific things to research. They came back with identical presentations. It was insane. Like they used the prompts I gave them as on ChatGPT, and they did like the exact same presentations with the same format, with the same examples. It was
It's
insane.
terrifying.
Yes, but actually it was very beneficial. Like I think this had to happen for them to understand it's not original what you did. You just made a machine to do the work for you, but you didn't put anything from yourself in it. So really this class was for me a turning point. Like we had to stop and talk about it and how to use these tools. And I told them myself, I don't have an answer, and I don't have an answer. I just like feel, because I have this intuitive approach always in everything I do, that this does not feel right. Like to use this tool in this way, it doesn't feel right. To have like to produce 12 identical presentations, it doesn't feel right at all. And I think they felt it and they understood it because they saw it happening. Other than that, just forcing like, no, you don't use this and do that and do this doesn't work anymore. So they
Right.
have to experience it themselves. So what I fear about is this to happen, like not to be original anymore, not to feel, okay, that is Huda's work, this is Nora's work. So you
Right.
feel there's something from you in the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure like it's part of the challenge, and we will understand it at some point that it shouldn't work this way. I hope so.
Yeah, I know it's a terrifying thing. I mean, it's also like it creates fake news. I mean, it's if you ask it to write your CV, it writes your CV for you. But of course, it makes, fantasy stories, most of it, or collects it from like left, right, and center. So you get sometimes strange connections. It's like, but the thing is, it will get better in the future, but I don't know if that's better. Like it will get more efficient. So maybe you can say, you can write and say a prompt. One of the prompts is make me a design that look like Nora's design.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
where it's going. I feel like if it goes in this direction, then we can all forget about, like we're going to have a kind of brave new world situation where we have to fight the machine, which I hope it never gets to that. And it's also, of course, consumes far more energy than, you sitting around and just sketching with a pencil on a piece of paper. It kind of guzzles up tons of water and computing energy and electricity and ruins the environment. Whereas if you sketch on your paper, nothing happens, you're like actually just maybe shouldn't use too many papers, but
Yeah, exactly. But I believe also that maybe we will get to appreciate anything that is handmade more, like reflecting, for example, on مثلا the carpets. You can see the machine-made carpets, but if you get to see like a person who is making the textile and is making the carpet themselves, and you see the labor behind it, so you get to appreciate it more, and you also will see it in a different way than a machine-made carpet, and so on and so forth. So I think maybe also we will relive something that has been happening before, but in a different context, maybe.
yeah.
This makes sense. And also, I was listening to this podcast. I can't remember the name of the person, but he was a writer, and he was speaking about AI in the context of writing, and how we will get to appreciate the books even that are written by humans. So yeah, I think we will get to appreciate definitely things handmade, and handmade writing, handmade artworks more. I think we will start by obsessing about the tool at first, and then we will understand the value of real things more.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, if it makes me think of like the early 80s when, desktop publishing was the thing. And at some point, everybody's designs start to look the same.
Yeah.
But that's changed, people mature and then they go back and they learn to use the tools in a creative way. And I guess with AI, maybe it will happen, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it will happen as well. Any final words you want to share with us? Did we miss something you wanted to talk about that we did not manage?
Not really, but maybe a note to self, just to be always intuitive, truthful to our process and our journey, and not too harsh on ourselves. Just this.
Thank you. That's very sweet. I think we tend to be, especially as women, we tend to be pretty critical. But it's also, insecurity is also a sign of creativity, because you always want something new, different. And so to create something out of nothing is very stressful. Thank you so much. It was really lovely talking to you. And thank you for being with us on Khatt Chronicles.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This was Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world.